Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cock Podcast, the Cult of Cantona. You're all very welcome back. Thanks to everybody who supported the show so far, listening, sharing, interacting on social media. You can get us at the Cult of Cantona on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and on the website, thecultofcantona.com. How are we all doing now? How many Xanax did you take in the last 2 to 3 weeks?
Oh, Jesus, so many. It's been a very depressing few weeks. Except for the win last weekend. That was really good. Very lucky, but somehow they pulled it through. The 92nd minute, it looked very bleak. Very bleak. Was that four losses in a row, potentially?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. You know, when we're playing so badly that when we score, I didn't even celebrate. Fair enough.
I can't say that for myself. I was running around like a lunatic.
Sorry, I'm the negative one. I'm the negative Nancy of the show. Some positives to take away there, I think, though.
It's been a rough few weeks. Some of those performances have been completely atrocious. To a level that you'd already given up on the season. And sure, the Brentford win was, you could say, like a turning point potentially, just because of the dramatic way it happened, and you could argue that, more confidence going forward or whatever, but I think it was just very lucky. Very lucky, and it has no indication of how we're going to go forward. Yeah.
And who knew that Super Scotty McTominay?
Super Scott McTominay. Scotty Too Hottie.
Scotty Too Hottie.
He was brilliant.
I think he clearly really cares about the club, and Ten Hag came out afterwards and he was asked in the pressers, was he part of your plans, and that's why he's still here. So obviously has still a huge role to play, and if he can do that, I mean, he was inspired by the Beckham documentary, clearly. And I think more of that, that kind of guys who are raised in the culture, or the old culture, who don't dance on videos on TikTok, are generally speaking required to get us through this kind of mess.
I mean, I don't think anyone argues that he is a limited player in what he can do, in his ability.
He's too hotty to handle.
He is. We just don't understand Scotty Too Hotty. But limited as he is, he's still very effective if you use him correctly. He's got great physical prowess. He's got the passion, like you said. Play him up front, He scores consistently for Scotland. They brought him on as an emergency, forward for this game, and he scored twice in 5 minutes. Play him up front. He'll get you 30 goals a season.
Yeah, definitely. I think, if they're going to stick Maguire up front for 15 minutes, then McTominay has a shot. Front
two, 4-4-2, Maguire and McTominay up front.
How do we feel about Rasmus Højlund?
He is brilliant. Really, really enjoy watching him. You can see he's because of his age, he's still very raw. There's a lot of things he can still improve on, but you see the elements of his play that attracted the club to him in the first place. His pace is frankly cartoonish. When he starts going, it looks like a cartoon when he runs that fast for a man that size, for a boy that size, really. The physicality he has, just backing into centre halves, you don't see that in modern football a lot anymore. Just elbows out, back into the centre half, and just hold off.
Deflecting the defenders off, waiting for people to run on.
Yeah, and you can ping it into him and he'll hold it up for you, Even with two guys around him, it's brilliant to watch. He's got a good touch, great finish, as we saw.
He doesn't have a heavy touch, which is great. For a man of his size, is relatively unusual.
Yeah, the finishes against Galatasaray are brilliant.
Yeah, I'm citing Lukaku as an example there, with his clown feet.
Oh God!
And his first touch. But he one thing that I was concerned about, I've seen him kind of blast the ball in and score headers, and all the highlight videos from Atalanta and stuff. But I was really impressed when he pulled that kind of Van Nistelrooy-esque. Now, Van Nistelrooy only did one of them in his whole career, where he took on 6 players and then scored. But it reminded me of that, and I was like, hold on, do we have the next... Psst, don't tell Real Madrid. Do we have the next Ruud Van Nistelrooy?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Once he got that ball and he turned that defender, he wasn't catching him. He was just gone.
Yeah.
And then that finish right at the end when he chipped the keeper as well. It was,
Who's in goal for Man United at the moment?
Andre Onana. What do we think of him so far?
I don't know.
A goalkeeper that can't actually
Goalkeep.
We're being mean now. Like he's done okay. He's made a few mistakes.
Yeah.
New nerves maybe for a new club. Maybe the pressure's getting to him.
Yeah. I maybe look. It's a huge thing, and it is a step up. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like someone who is a fringe actor and they get an opportunity to play a lead or something. You know, it would take a while for them. Like actors get fired for fluffing things up, fucking things up all the time in similar circumstances when they go up a level.
Yeah. I think for goalkeepers especially, like, confidence is such a big thing. You know, you have to have confidence in your ability, and especially Onana, he looks like someone that thrives off his own confidence.
Yeah.
And now when he made that first mistake, maybe some doubt started creeping into his mind, and he just can't get rid of that because you don't see him, you know, bollocking his centre halves anymore. You don't see him yelling at everyone.
Be a bit rich now, bollocking Maguire. From
But like, you know, that's the goalkeeper you're buying, a confident, you know.
27-year-old goalkeeper, by the way.
Yeah, still young for a goalkeeper.
I was looking at the stats between De Gea when he signed for United and Onana, and they're quite similar. Like, I think 18 goals conceded, or 17. De Gea 17, and clean sheet, and yeah, just very similar statistics. I suppose the only kind of glaring point about that is De Gea was 19 at the time, and Onana's supposed to be the finished article.
Yeah.
I don't remember now, not that I remember it anyway, but when Peter Schmeichel signed for United, I mean, wasn't everybody expecting him to hit the ground running?
Probably. I'd expect so.
I was.
Yeah.
I was very excited about his sensible soccer kind of FIFA 99 carrying the ball out all the time, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But and he still looks pretty comfortable doing that. But I'm glad that Ten Hag didn't drop him.
Yeah, a lot of people were calling for it.
No, I'm glad he didn't, because I think that can ruin careers.
Yeah.
Would Fergie have dropped him? Absolutely. But I you know, knowing what we know about Ten Hag being the kind of virtuous, empathetic man that he is, I don't think that's not his first port of call.
Well, I've also heard people saying that Ten Hag has a reputation of playing favourites, you know, and people were starting to imply that Onana not being dropped is him becoming one of those undroppable favourites. Kind of like the Anthonys, you know, that don't particularly play well, but start week in, week out anyway.
I have very mixed emotions about Anthony just walking back into the team. Number one, he hasn't played in weeks, and they just came straight back into the team. If it was anyone else, you could argue that, and this is without getting into the legal ramifications of stuff he's been dealing with and the club, but it makes you think he does have favourites, and I still don't think Anthony cuts the mustard.
No, he hasn't shown anything, to be honest.
No.
To be worth the hype that when he came in. A very frustrating player to watch. One of those that has all the ability in the world, but just no football IQ.
Yeah, like, I hate labelling players like this, but he does feel a little bit like a one-trick pony. And then when you're like, there's the comparisons to Ian Robin, and who used to do something very similar. But Ian Robin was 4 times faster, could beat players really easily. And then he'd just absolutely rifle it into the top corner or in the bottom corner.
You knew what was coming and you couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, not that again. Oh, you're not going to clamp me.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you're clamped.
Yeah. Well, he's still young, you know, and he has the ability. The underlying ability is there. You just need to teach him how to implement it properly. And that can be taught, you know. And
teach him how to stay, out of trouble.
That's that.
Most importantly.
Yeah, maybe that can be taught.
What about the injury crisis? Everybody's ignoring. I think we're being absolutely slaughtered in the media. But let's look at it kind of practically and break it down. Look, we have a horrendous run of injuries. It's just across the back, a lot of it.
Yeah. 3 left backs all out.
Like, it's nuts. I'm like having to replace having to I wouldn't say panic buy, because I think everybody that he's brought in on loan to fill gaps have been very good, which would be a good, I suppose, time to talk about Sofian Amrabat.
Mr. Amrabat, yeah, quite the impression he's made.
Yeah,
that weird left back role he was playing earlier. It was interesting.
In the first game with Palace in the Cup, he looked like he knew he could play anywhere, and he was like, you know, like a robot, like a skin job.
Yeah,
but he kind of got found out in the Galatasaray game.
He did, yeah.
I think he has everything that it takes to be like a really fantastic Man United footballer, because that's what we've been lacking, and it's the same old shite for the last 15 years. We've never replaced Keane, you know, just someone to stop the ball, look around, pick the right pass, control things, play simple balls forward, and also run and absolutely lift somebody out of it to get the ball back. I'm very excited by him.
Yeah, for sure. He's got a lot of good attributes, you know. He's got a good pass on him, good awareness, great physicality.
Yeah,
he does get caught out sometimes. I remember the Premier League game against Palace. You could argue that, you know, at least one of those goals was him losing his man or not tracking his man or just being caught out in the wrong position. Which again, you know, you could bring it down to new player, new system, learning what his role is in the system, but he did get caught out, and in the Galatasaray game.
Yeah, there's a couple of times when people were looking for him and he was down in Central buying a sliced pan.
Yeah.
You know? where is he?
Yeah, but you can put that down to, you know, new player, new system. He's still integrating.
And absolutely, he's just over enthusiastic as well. Like even in his interview, his post-match interview after his full debut when he started. I was so impressed with what he was saying. You know, I love this club. I've been dreaming about this my whole life. This is what I want. Being here is such a privilege. I'm paraphrasing here, but like, and I, for the first time in a long time, believe him. And more of that.
Yeah,
right?
They seem to be bringing in more and more players with that mentality. You know, that want to play for the club. Because you've seen it over the years, and you still have them in the team right now that don't particularly look like they want to be there. Or don't have to fight to be there, you know. And Amrabat is probably not the most talented player on the team, but he tries harder than anyone, and he's going to keep trying harder than everyone. Just because he has that, you know.
Amrabat, the acrobat.
Yeah.
Is he quietly changing the club, do you think?
I think with Casemiro's legs going, maybe it's just temporary, but the signs are not looking good this early in the season where. He's been overrun a bit. It's probably good to have someone with the legs of Amrabat next to him. And I think as they play more games together and they get to know each other,
it's a bit like us as we get to know each other and we play more games.
Exactly.
And we start like being more tactile with each other.
Exactly.
Then we'll stop looking like we have snooker cues up our arses. There are some positives. It's the strangest thing. You're looking at someone like Ericsson and he looks like his legs are gone.
He did brilliantly when he came on, though, against Brentford.
He looked like a, you know, rejuvenated figure. You're looking at him going, can you do that every game, please?
Well, but he came on in a very different environment than, you know, some of the other games they played this season. When he came on against Brentford, they had, you know, 25, 30 minutes just attacking a back line that wanted to sit in their own 6-yard box. And that's where he thrives, when he's not, you know, when he's not running back towards his own goal, when he's not chasing down balls,
when he's not picking up rubbish after everybody else.
When he's just sitting there with the ball at his feet. He's probably the best player on the team when he's got just the ball at his feet and a little bit of time to pick out that pass. You know he's going to do that. That's never been in doubt. It's when it's when you're being overrun and when you have some sort of defensive responsibility that he kind of struggles. But he's the ideal player to bring on in a situation like that. And he did brilliantly. He was one of the main reasons we turned that game around.
I have 2 words for you. Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. Remember when he had that terrible patch a couple of years ago, and we all wanted to.
Move on.
Yeah, and then he turned it around, and he had last season where he scored like 30 goals or whatever, and we're like, oh, maybe it was just a rough patch. But is he just a purple patch player now? Is this just a cycle that's going to keep repeating, and you're just going to have to put up with this version of Rashford in the hopes that the other version comes out sooner or later?
It's a bit Jekyll and Hyde-ish now, and like him crashing the car or whatever else. Who knows? Look, again, you don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. All sorts of stuff can be brewing. You just don't know. But I'm crying out for him to be dropped, to kick him up the arse. Because you just know that any of the last 2 or 3 managers would have dropped him by now. They just would have. And to see him come off and put Garnacho on, I'm a big Garnacho fan because I'm a big believer in reinvigorating positions and and the youth, which has always been the case. And Rashford, you know, for all intents and purposes now, is not a young star breaking through anymore. No. He's in his mid-20s, so he should be established.
Yeah.
And to be really frank about it, I mean, if you look at Man City, Liverpool is slightly less so at Liverpool now, but if you look at kind of like Arsenal or Man City now, you have to ask yourself that if someone was misfiring like that, would they be dropped?
Yeah,
they absolutely would.
Maybe Ten Hag's just hoping that one, you know, all he needs is one to go in. Maybe that's what maybe Ten Hag is thinking, just one to go in and they'll switch him again, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just desperate for him to get that ball in. And he's one of those guys that he's not performing in the team, but I don't think you can question his character. We all know.
Oh, Meals on Wheels is the best.
Yeah.
But he doesn't always deliver anymore.
No. But like you can't, like a lot of players over the years that have come in underperformed, you can question, like, you know, their commitment, their attitude to the team. I don't think you can do that for Marcus Rashford. You know, he's United through and through, and he loves the club.
His heart is always in it.
Yeah.
But his head.
But there's just something wrong at the moment, whatever it may be, because his body language seems off, you know, flailing his arms around, head down all the time. Whatever it is, I think Ten Hag is just waiting for that one moment where he goes in and he's just hoping it flips again to the Marcus Rashford we had last year.
Let's give credit where it's due as well. I mean, that cross for the Hoyland's goal was something out of...
Yeah,
you know,
when he smacked it at his head.
That's incredible. But I just how can, like, when you have a team of, like, say, of Man City standard, right, where you have players that are so multifunctional in several positions, and then you have United where we have this idea of a player, and if they don't do that, then they can't adapt to something else or different systems. Like, I know I'm always banging on about kind of wingers and why don't we have wingers that cross the ball and all this type of thing, because I'm old school like that. But if I can't understand in this day and age, I just can't, how anybody who plays out on the left or the right can't play with both feet.
Yeah,
there's no excuse for it.
I think that extends to a professional footballer at any like at that level.
I'm not saying everyone should be Diego Maradona.
No, but like somewhat proficient.
Like to cross a ball even.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about pinging it in and skulls in it. Sat-naving it. I'm talking about him, but I'm also like Garnacho is. The difference between, say, Garnacho and Anthony is Garnacho works harder to get into smaller spaces and be players. Anthony isn't, like, I don't know what he does.
Yeah.
And Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Like, what's his fucking deal?
Yeah.
Like, how? Like, he's like some. He's like some avatar of Mason Mount that we bought.
Yeah.
I don't see where he fits in. I don't see what he brings to the team. He looked lively when he's playing against Galatasaray, but when I say lively, I mean he was getting around the pitch well, but he'd no end product.
No.
He wasn't crossing the ball. He wasn't. There was no conversions of anything.
Yeah.
He looks brightly and he looked into it. But,
he seems to be kind of getting into the same space as Bruno would want to be in.
Yeah.
They kind of be.
Well, that space is taken.
Getting into each other's way. You know?
That space is taken.
Yeah.
Like Bruno didn't play great the last game, but like Bruno always looks as if he's trying, even when he's crying and moaning and his hands are in the air. But you know.
Yeah, it was a strange buy. Like when he first came in, I thought, you know, maybe we're not seeing something Ten Hag knows.
Yeah.
And he could potentially fit in, and you give him a bit of time to adapt to the new system or whatever. And it's still early days, you know. It's still very early days, and he could still adapt. It takes players time, you know. Jack Grealish, when he went to City,
yeah, we're still waiting for him to.
he's all right now, but you know,
this is an Irish podcast. Jack Grealish will never be praised on this podcast.
For Jack Grealish, but, no, I maybe it's the idealist in me. I still hope he turns out well, you know, and he proves us all wrong. But at the moment, it's hard to see exactly what the plan was.
Yeah, things seem a bit just scattergun. But I still believe in Ten Hag. I do think he's the right man for the job. I think he's the right man for most high-profile footballing jobs. I think that the owners are the wrong men for the club.
Do you think, though? I've been reading online recently about this criticism of him, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I can see the point, and I want to get your opinion on this. Where How long has Ten Hag been in the job now? It's been 14,
he's in his second year, so
15 months, something like that. Ange Postecoglou has got into Tottenham, and 6-7 games into the season, they've already got a defined style, and you can see a clear change in how things have changed and his style of play that he's implemented already. How has it taken us 14, 15 months to get here, and it's still you saw it kind of at the start, but there's still not a fully implemented plan.
I'll give you the twofold is the answer to that. Why? Number one, our owners are cunts.
Yeah. And that's undebatable.
And it's just that goes without saying. And I think that no matter what we say, no matter how well we're playing or not, I think it's always going to play a factor. It's always going to disrupt things. It's like, with the greatest of respect, it's like a black sheep in a family who you just know is going to kick off. At a wedding or whatever, it's coming. I think until we get that straightened out, and until there's clarity within the structure of the club, because they say it, and Gary Neville said it, until that's sorted, we're going to be going around in circles, banging our head off walls. So there's that. And it's Spurs.
Lads,
so it doesn't matter. So the sun shines on a dog's arse some days. And no, I love Ange, but they haven't got the mentality. Like, as Keno said, Spurs will always let you down. I hope they do well. And
top of the league at the moment.
Yeah, well, so were Charlton in 1976. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
And look, again, it could be a massive overreaction in the long term about all of this. I love Ange. I think he's great. But wait until his squad gets a hiding and he's a few injuries coming in. And it'd be a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, they've been pretty lucky with injuries in a full strength squad, and James Maddison has been brilliant for them. But
I look at him and I go,
that should have been.
That's the Mason Mount. That's the Mason Mount boy.
Yeah.
But again, is he too like Bruno? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's have a little chat about the David Beckham documentary.
Oh yeah, I finished it today actually, just as I was having me dinner before coming down.
Yeah, what did you make of it all?
I thought it was really good. I was surprised. I'm surprised it took this long to make a documentary about David Beckham.
Yeah,
he's iconic. He's one of those guys.
He shies away from publicity so often. I'm amazed he made a documentary about his life.
Yeah. But I thought it was really well done, and it went, deep into obviously his World Cup sending off in his career, and when he left United, and you can clearly see a deep sense of regret and sadness in him that he had to do that.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, what could have been if he'd spent his whole career at United?
I'd say
the gigs or Scholes.
Yeah,
he would have been one of those.
We certainly missed like the sheer excellence of delivery.
Yeah. Because I was talking to someone else about it. Like, people forget how good he was.
He was amazing.
Yeah, because of his public life and his persona and his image, of like his popularity beyond football. People forget how good he was at kicking a football.
I mean, when you look at this is not a monetary, like, obviously a great career and winning honours are the most important thing when you do that type of work.
Yeah.
But I was just curious as to what kind of David Beckham's net worth is comparable to the other players that stayed on. So I did a little bit of research on that. Like, David Beckham is worth, I think, 400 or 450 million, and Paul Scholes is worth about 90 million.
Yeah.
Now,
you could probably put all the class of '92 together, and they wouldn't get near David Beckham.
No, the only Man United player that gets anywhere near that is Ronaldo. He's worth more. Yeah, but comparatively. I feel for him, but there's sometimes I look at him and I think, like, he's very good. Beckham is very, very good at playing the naive figure, and he loves playing on that boyish charm. And I don't know what happened. I don't know who ate all the cookies, kind of stuff. And that's great. It works really well for him. Yeah. And I do. I'm going to make a controversial comment. I think that David Beckham is the Yoko Ono of the Spice Girls. So I think that...
comparison.
But I think Bex is very, very likeable, and he gets a hard rap. But look at what he achieved. I mean, and look who he played for. I mean, in terms of a career, it's Roy the Rover stuff, like working class guy from North London, you know. Going on to play for the biggest club in the world, and then the second biggest club in the world, Real Madrid,
with the Galacticos.
And it's an incredibly exciting adventure he went on. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Yeah. I feel a bit bad for him though, the way Fergie treated him at the end. Fergie can be very cold, but apparently Bex was like, "What's going on?
Yeah,
please talk to me, boss."
Yeah.
So that's like a dad, you know, or a son going to a dad and saying, you know, just tell me what I've done wrong.
Well, so Fergie's notorious for not giving in to the whole superstar, you know, persona footballers like to put out, and Beckham was probably the first one that had it in such mass appeal. And it probably rubbed him up the wrong way. And you could argue, you know, even when you're watching the documentary, maybe his head wasn't where it should have been football-wise when the whole Posh Spice thing and everything started, you know. And was Fergie wrong? Was Beckham wrong? We'll never really know, because
I think they were both wrong and both equally right. You know, in terms of, I mean, you'd argue that, and this has come up before, just in the way that Alex Ferguson has treated players in general. Even from our chat with Lee Sharp in the last episode, you know, he very voluntarily mentioned, you know, how badly he was being treated. And by today's standards, you look at that and listen to that and go, you know, it's kind of bullying. Yeah. You know, it is bullying.
Yeah.
Was Beckham kind of bullied in that situation? It's very hard to bully a millionaire, you know.
Well, yeah. When he got sent off at the World Cup, he was bullied a lot.
and Glenn Hoddle. What like, talk about throwing somebody under the bus. Do you know what I mean?
He was never likeable, was he?
He was 23. Can you imagine, by today's standards, can you imagine Eric Ten Hag after the World Cup? I know it was a different time, but when the lads missed the penalties at the Euros.
Yeah.
Saka and Rashford. Can you imagine Eric Ten Hag going, you know, if he was asked, they threw that away for you, Eric, didn't they? And he went, oh yeah, fucking right they did. It just wouldn't happen.
Shocking. He was never a likable guy. In the documentary, he just comes across even worse. Like
he's a risible. Like, and the worst thing I think about him as well, or what paints him in an even worse light, if at all possible, was that I respect the documentary filmmaker Fisher Stevens, the Cove, and some great docs, and he made great movie stand-up guys with Al Pacino and Christopher Walken a few years ago. So he's a proper artist. And, you know, when a proper artist approaches you and says, look, I'm working on this doc for 2 years on David Beckham, and it's going to be a well-rounded bipartisan account of his life where nothing was off the table. So if you approach Glenn Hoddle for that and you say, that's what it's going to be, and Glenn Hoddle says no, it's like, fuck off, Glenn Hoddle. Do you know what I mean? If he's going to get a fair shake and he can refute it or review it before it goes out, what he says, why would you not?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. The big thing that struck me about the documentary was the admiration he had from his teammates, especially at Real Madrid. When you hear you know, Luis Figo and Roberto Carlos Ronaldo talking about him in such high esteem, especially through the struggles he went there, you know, obviously before leaving for Los Angeles and when he first started breaking into the team, how at that level, and especially at that club, if someone comes in and they're not good enough and you don't take them under the wing like these guys did, like they clearly saw something in him and an ability or like a special nature in him. Like I was struck by how...
Like a golden...
Yes. Like I was struck by how amazingly, you know, supportive and complimentary they were of him.
I think he won them over. I think Bex does that.
Yeah.
I think people have an idea about him and then he walks into an environment.
Yeah, but he did that because he was so talented, so unbelievably
I think he's
good.
Really likeable as well. By all accounts, it's like there's a sports journalist that interviewed him that I was talking to last week, and he was like, No, he's just the nicest bloke. He doesn't come in, he's not in bad form, he's not giving out about lights or makeup or you know, in the documentary it was telling. I don't think he did it for publicity, but when he did the first Spanish interview, when he signed and he had his shoes off, I think it was like a holistic thing, and he was just trying to relax because he was incredibly nervous, and he was like, I don't think Bex was so media savvy that he thought that his feet would be in shot. I think he just took his shoes off because he wanted to relax. So he
says a lot about him.
He wouldn't say anything stupid. Incredible career. What he went on to achieve was incredible, and like a really inspiring figure in terms of just proving people wrong. Okay, you think if that's what you tell me I am, I'm going to show you that I'm not. And he'd do that.
A very great documentary about a really great football fan.
However, he did the dirty birdie on his birdie.
Oh, we're not speculating. That's heresy.
I would have had much more respect from had he have just taken ownership of that. Obviously, he regrets that, and he very much loves his wife. But I think now, and I'm not saying that he should have mentioned the name of the woman that he had an affair with. But I think you take ownership of that and you say exactly what it is. I had an affair. It was wrong. I spent many years working on myself to make it better, and it's the worst thing I've ever done. And we're in a good place now. I think that if you look at all the people that have been scandalised like that before, the people that have come out and faced it, and like I'll give you a really good example, the Hugh Grant thing, when he was caught with that prostitute, Devan Brown. He came out the next day, that's what I did, I really apologise, I'll never do it again. Now he was hounded by the press, but his career never really suffered. Like Beckham's career suffered for a couple of years after that. So personally, I you know, the way he handled that, particularly in the doc, and it flew in the face of the whole, you know, nothing's off the table kind of rhetoric. I was reading a Guardian interview with Fisher Stevens, and he said that he only took it on the basis of the fact that he could talk about anything and nothing was off the table. But clearly stuff was off the table, you know,
like Diego Simeone. He was very nice about Diego Simeone.
Considering I don't know if I
would have decked him the next time I saw him.
I think
I'd still like to deck Diego Simeone.
Look, there's also affiliations, and this, you know, when we've spoken about this before about the Qatari thing. Beckham is very deeply entrenched in the Qatari footballing, sports washing world.
He's an ambassador, isn't he?
He was for the World Cup, and it looks like he's going to be involved in in another serious bid, and he's joined forces with the guys to curry favour.
I was reading about that as well, and it's.
And he was interviewed just on one of the red carpets for a premiere of that somewhere, and he hinted that he's involved in that.
It's a very clever move by the Qataris to bring him in, you know, with his connection to the club, and especially after the documentary now. He's a very powerful figure to have in your corner. They're all cute hooers, like they're really cute. I don't know, I mean, it's a great doc, but I'll use an example of an Irish documentary about Phil Lynott that was made a couple of years ago, right? If something doesn't critique the you know, someone's character, if there are character flaws, which we all have, and it's just a hero worshipping piece, then it doesn't serve any aesthetic master. It's not interesting. No, you have to tap into you need the darker stuff, the fallacy of the human condition. And I think that he's flawed. He's also a lovely man as well, and a decent man. That's clear to see. But like the Phil Lynott stuff, for example, in that documentary, they don't mention anything about his drug use, and he was a drug addict, and that's what killed him. You know, they didn't mention anything about his illegitimate child at the time, who you know, I can only imagine if that was me, and there was this tangible record set in stone about my life, and I'm not mentioned in that, you know, that would upset me. So like from a documentary point of view, and I'm a documentary filmmaker, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a well-rounded account. You know, David Beckham wasn't a saint, and I think it was maybe a little bit safe kind of concentrating on the sending off of the World Cup, as big as it was. You know, I think there's worse things he's done in his life. So, but yeah, great documentary. We'll have you back, and
Yeah, we did. We
Get
had,
on
like,
the podcast.
Yeah, and I'd love to see him at Old Trafford, just not with some. Just leave your mates at home.
Yeah.
Just about players in general in the club. Do you think the players are responding to the manager?
It's hard to say. I mean, was that turnaround against breakfast? Brentford.
What's that turnaround in between
that
breakfast?
turnaround in breakfast? That turnaround against Brentford, was that a reaction to the manager, or was that just pure luck, as we were saying? And what sort of impact is that going to have going forward in respect to their relationship with the manager? You know, was that inspired by the manager, or was that just more?
I think Ten Hag was as surprised as I was.
Yeah, probably. And like, do you go back into the dressing room and go, lads, we got lucky there, but we're still in this weird tension with the manager, and it's not really going to change going forward.
He celebrated a lot for that, and he never celebrates. And I know it's important, but it did feel as if there was a Mark Robbins vibe to it. Mark Robbins, who saved Fergie's job in 1990 when he scored a winner in a cup game. Was there an element of that? I don't think things are gone so far down that road. And I'm not going to entertain the whole Ten Hag out stuff. I'm just not.
No. It's easy to say that the result of one game can turn around what is. We don't know that, but what is speculated to be a very tense situation in the dressing room. Does that change everything? Does that throw away all the problems the club is having right now? It doesn't really.
No.
You'd hope that a lot of the reports are exaggerated, and the players do respect the manager, and the manager respects the players, and they have a good relationship going forward with common goals or whatever it may be. It's just hard to say looking in, and it's hard to say especially after just the one game, because it has been really bad this year. Like, the results have been unacceptable, really. That would have been 4 losses in a row if they hadn't turned that around against Brentford. The Champions League is looking bleak.
It's ostensibly over now. It is.
Yeah, the Premier League is looking bleak. Where we'll be lucky to get top 4 at this rate.
I think. Look, my prediction of winning the Champions League is out the window.
It's gone terribly wrong.
What a douchebag! That guy with his predictions.
Yeah.
So, is there anything to be said for your Europa League final in Dublin?
In Dublin, we can get ripped off twice in one season.
Here, take all my money. Do you know what? I think that'd be lovely, and I think it would be on par with kind of some of the stop-start progress we've made. And I think, judging by the way our league form is kind of creeping up, I think it may be the only way we get into the Champions League next year. We'd need a miracle to get into the top 4.
Yeah,
we really would if this continues.
Yeah.
Now, that said, we'd need to go on a kind of Invincibles run.
Yeah.
To turn things around, and strange shit like that happens. It does.
It would entail beating some of the top clubs, which we've struggled to do in recent times. Yeah. What was the stat? I can't even remember what it was, but our record against the top 9 clubs in the Premier League is awful.
Yeah,
it's horrendous.
it's depressing, and
those are the teams you have to beat, because respectively, the start of the season we got was relatively easy.
Yeah, I think that
apart from the Arsenal game, and you could argue Tottenham this year, but you haven't really played that big opposition.
There's been no kind of quote unquote challenge.
No, you still have City, you still have Liverpool. You've still got Newcastle.
On our day, we're capable of beating all these teams. But maybe the players looked at the fixtures quite literally and went, "That's a handy 3 points. That's a handy 3 points." And then that compiled with the injury crisis has just been it's just obliterated us and quite literally shown us up.
Yeah. And even the Brentford game, that would have been, you'd have put down that as a routine win. It was very barely. the Nottingham Forest game at home when we were 2-0 down in the first 4 minutes, and somehow pulled that back. You could argue, character or whatever, but they should never be reaching that stage where you have to pull off a comeback like that. And that's like 2 of the very few victories they've had this year, especially in the Premier League. And they're already at borderline not good enough.
Schizophrenic.
Yeah. Very lucky, really. It could have been much worse.
Yeah, there are some positives I would like to kind of focus on because, we've been kind of negative Nancy's the last couple of episodes.
We're football fans.
And I just want to say that you might have noticed that we're Oisín-less. Oisín is now back in Canada for a while, so he'll be doing stuff online for us on YouTube stuff and match reactions and other pieces, and he'll be zooming in. We'll do an odd episode now and again with Oisín. So Oisín, if you're watching,
we miss you.
Go those Canadian Tigers or whatever you're doing over there.
And speaking of things that are coming up, we have a very interesting event coming up.
Yeah, we're involved in a Premier League stars meet and greet, which is on in Ballyfermot.
Tell them who's going to be there.
I'll link it in the description of the show. It's on Friday the 19th in Ballyfermot. The bar escapes me, but I'll put it in the
Vinyl Bar.
The Vinyl,
I believe it is.
The Vinyl Bar.
Vinyl Bar. And we have 2 very special guests.
Jazz. Nice.
Tell them who's coming.
Yeah, we've 2 kind of really cool guests who are speaking at tonight. I'm comparing at tonight as well, which is fun. And you'll be there as well helping out.
So come say hello.
So come say hello. Yeah, tickets are quite reasonable, but they're a little bit more expensive if you want stuff signed and all that type of stuff. So Dennis Irwin's going to be there. So Dennis Irwin is, and we'll talk a little bit about Dennis, is like Mr. 8, 9 out of 10 every week. I mean, Alex Ferguson traditionally has said that in his starting 11, in his mythical starting 11, Dennis Irwin's straight in there.
The most reliable player you could ever find.
Yeah, just like magic, just magically consistent in a time when you look at now, where just nobody's consistent. So Dennis, obviously from Cork, and he started in GAA and went over to Oldham and played for Oldham for a couple of seasons, and then United very famously snapped him up quite cheaply, and he's the best money apparently Ferguson has ever spent on a player.
Hard to argue with that. And
things could have been so different because when we were when we bought Cantona, Eric Cantona, if you're not aware of him, is
his cult.
It's a cult of 6 listeners who listen to the cult of Cantona. Dennis Irwin was. They were initially talking about Fergie called up about the potential of signing Eric based on a recommendation from Michel Platini. And they tried to get Dennis Irwin as part of the deal, and he wouldn't sell them. So that tells you it goes in some way
need to know
about how he was perceived at Old Trafford. Played for United from like 1990, the end of 1990 at the start of 91 up until 2002. So and the most decorated Irish footballer of all time.
A very exciting guest to have.
Very exciting. And Clayton Blackmore.
Clayton Blackmore
is, for some of our older listeners, was an incredibly versatile.
Also very dependable.
Yeah, defender, played on the wing, in the middle. He's before allotted squad numbers in the Premier League in 1994. He was the only player to play numbers 2 to 11.
He was the John O'Shea of his time.
He was literally the John O'Shea. And I met him quite recently at that thing we were doing, and I had a chat with him, and he's the nicest, just the nicest man. When we're talking about someone who won the Premier League, he was there for the inaugural Premier League trophy. He won the Cup Winners' Cup in 91, the FA Cup in 1990.
And a long servant for the club as well.
Oh yeah,
he was there for
10, I think from 82 or 83 until 94, I think, or 93. So lived a life, incredibly well respected, and a lovely guy, and a pro golfer now as well. So we want to get a few tips on your bank swing or whatever.
I believe there's a Q&A session happening as well, so you can ask them some questions about their experiences at United, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll have lots of interesting stories to tell.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The Vinyl Bar in Ballyfermot, it's run in conjunction with Legends X1, but also with the Ballyfermot Irish Man United Supporters Club, which is huge. They have a big Facebook group and all sorts of Man United events, and they go over in huge numbers.
It's going to be a great night.
It's going to be a great night, and we'll be interviewing them, and you never know, we might even grab some airtime with Dennis and Clayton for the show as well.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to support the show, guys, you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/Cult of Cantona. Become a member, get us a coffee, and we'll return the favour when we see it, or we'll get you a pint out and about. One of you a week. Because we couldn't afford to buy all of your points. But if you happen to run into us, particularly not at the Man United Ballyfermot Legends Day, any other time, randomly on the streets,
come say hello.
Come say hello.
We don't buy it.
If you want to listen to the show, you can get it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and on the website thecultofcantona.com.
Thank you very much for listening. Au revoir.
Cheers.